The second round of this year's rookie class is very strong, actually. The second rounders this year look, in my opinion, a little bit safer than last year's second rounders because you're going to be getting so many third round, fourth round running backs in the second round this year. You're also going to be getting, guys like Jackson Dart potentially, guys like Shedeur Sanders if he falls that far, not to mention Cam Scattaboo. You've got the tight ends, Colson Love and Tyler Warren, who could get pushed down that far. There are Jaden Higgins, Alec Iomanner. You're talking about those, maybe late first or early second round running backs. And so there are a lot of these players that we're drafting in Dynasty drafts using our Live League ADP. We've done 6 drafts now that we have in this ADP database. We can see guys that we would easily flip for a second round pick in Dynasty Fantasy Football. And so let's give you those guys and let's talk about these specific picks that we would flip or that we would get in return for these players we would flip players for. Let's start with the 201. We won't go through every single second round pick because some of them are going so close together. The 201 is one that's going still a little bit higher than the 202 when you're talking about comparatively. Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton, obviously last year playing with Bo Nix, had one of the best seasons of his entire career. He came on and actually was considered a league winner by all definitions of the term, because last year, if you had Courtland Sutton on your team, you drafted him, in Dynasty way late, in Fantasy 9th round and below. And last year, he was the wide receiver 15. He had 135 targets, caught 81 of those. He had 8 touchdowns last year. He was really good. He was really good last year, and it's really elevated his Dynasty value to the point now where he's going about in the 9th round of Dynasty Fantasy Football drafts. The asset that's also going in the 9th round of Dynasty Fantasy Football drafts is the 201. And so when you're looking at our ADP, we have seen Courtland Sutton go above the 201 in some of our drafts. And so this is absolutely happening. Not to mention, using the Flock trade finder and things like that. I'm looking through just the trades from today on Courtland Sutton. I'm seeing that he went for a late first in some places. I'm seeing that he went for an early second and a third in some places. It's going to depend league to league. I see Courtland Sutton for Dallas Goedert in the 201 just happened. And so I'm going to put some of these trades on the screen. I think that this is a very doable price for Courtland Sutton, and I truthfully think you're going to get a quarterback here with very good draft capital, or you're going to get a running back that's immediately going to have more value than Courtland Sutton when they're drafted here because of the landing spot, because of the situation. And so, in my opinion, that value of that player that's going to be at the 201 is going to be higher than Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton, I think they bring in wide receiver help or a tight end to Denver. They're going to bring somebody in the draft, and so I'm not shorting Courtland Sutton because of that. What I'm saying is I think that asset at the 201 is going to be more valuable. Jerry Jeudy's kind of the same thing. In our draft, again, we've seen Jerry Jeudy go. Actually, we've seen Jerry Jeudy go above the 111 in some of our drafts, which, as good as Jerry Jeudy was last year, kind of a similar situation, was stuck in Denver, of all places, with Courtland Sutton for a long time. Last year in Cleveland, he was the wide receiver 12 on the year.
That's the Jameis effect baby.
He had a really, really good year with a ton of volume. Like Nathan said, we're talking about the Jameis effect. 145 targets, caught 90 of those, had 1,200 yards. Jerry Jeudy was very good. Now, the Browns obviously are going to be bringing in a new quarterback in probably Cam Ward, if I had to guess, or, it could be Shedeur Sanders. Who knows? They're going to bring in a new quarterback. They're not going to roll with Jameis. Deshaun obviously is not going to work out there. And so you do have that to hold on to with Jerry Jeudy. I think his value maybe has a little bit of room to go higher. However, when I'm looking at some of the trades that have gone down for Jerry Jeudy, you're talking about, again, I've seen him go before late first in startup drafts. I've seen him traded for late first in Dynasty League. So I think if shooting for the 201, kind of the same situation. I think you're going to potentially get a running back there that gets hyped up. I think these top 14 picks are going to go in the top 8 rounds in Dynasty startup drafts. So I think you're going to talk about a round jump compared to where Jerry Jeudy sits right now in value. Khalil Shakir recently got a contract as well. We like Khalil Shakir. I think he's a good value, and I would hold Khalil Shakir for anything that people are actually willing to pay for him. We have seen, again, Khalil Shakir going around that 201 spot in our startups, and so I would take the 201 over Khalil Shakir. I think you're going to get a better receiver there than Khalil Shakir. Now, I don't think you're going to get a receiver in a higher upside running back. I don't think you're going to get a receiver in a better situation than Khalil Shakir, but in terms of ceiling, I don't think it's hard to beat the ceiling that Khalil Shakir has if you're drafting somebody like Jaden Higgins at the 201, not to mention, again, the quarterbacks. And so with the guys that are going to be available, the other thing about drafting at the 201 is you're probably going to get some value followers there. You're going to get guys at 201, 202, you're going to get some guys that are pushed out of the first round because somebody's going to reach on a 4th round running back or something like that. And so when that person falls to you, you could be drafting somebody with 7th round startup ADP instead of having Khalil Shakir, who has ninth and a half round startup ADP. And so all three of these guys I would trade for the 201.
Yeah, so we get to the 202, 203, which is kind of a tier of its own right now. The big news, not the big news, but one of the biggest pieces of news that came out of free agency or before free agency officially started technically on 4 p.m. on Wednesday. Najee Harris officially signed with the LA Chargers, which really, I mean, for all of the free agent landing spots that Najee Harris Harris could have gone to, that's what you wanted to see. Now, with Najee Harris, the reason that we're willing to move him for the 202 and the 203 is, number one, if you held Najee Harris until now, until his signing, that's an automatic value win. You just got a massive value win because of the hype of Najee Harris now being tied to Greg Roman, who's the offensive coordinator there, and they signed him to a 1-year, $5.2 million deal. He is guaranteed all of that, is a fully guaranteed contract, $5.2 million. Outside of that, nothing guaranteed at all. He's 27 years old, coming off of his rookie contract, a 1-year deal with Greg Roman. This is basically them saying that they're gonna move on from J.K. Dobbins and go with Najee Harris. This in no way eliminates the Chargers from taking a shot on a running back in the NFL draft. And I will tell you what, there is not a day 2 or a day 3 running back that the Chargers would pick where I wouldn't say there's a good chance that he eats into Najee Harris's workload. As much as I think Najee Harris is a solid NFL running back, I think he has his limitations, and that's been demonstrated since he came to the league. He's never been an efficient running back. He has averaged over 4 yards per carry once, 4.06 yards per carry in 2023. Interestingly enough, though, he's had a really nice high floor of 1,000 yards, 1,000 rushing yards every single year. 4 straight years he's had over 1,000 rushing yards. It's just come from sheer volume. Now, his touchdowns aren't anything crazy. They're consistent, but he's really going to be his ceiling. Najee Harris's ceiling is going to be, in a Greg Roman offense, still a high-end running back too, which is about the best of what you got from Najee Harris outside of his outlier rookie season, where his receiving usage was double of what it's been for the past 3 seasons. And I think that's what you're going to see probably from a Najee Harris best case scenario this year, is they ease in whatever running back they bring in the NFL draft behind or alongside Najee Harris with that backfield, and then you probably have Najee Harris moving on again after this year. There's not much long-term guarantee with Najee, and he's not a good enough talent where, again, at the 202, 203, I think you're going to get a better, higher upside shot long-term there. Dalton Kincaid, same sort of situation. Colson Loveland, good chance he's going to be there. I'd rather have him. I'd rather have that shot. Colson Loveland, if he goes late first, he still could potentially go in this range. If he goes early second to a good landing spot, he could be going in this range in your dynasty drafts. There are other tight end prospects in this that are going to be here that I just like better than Dalton Kincaid. Tyron Tracy also here. Tyron Tracy to me is a no-brainer. I don't think I have to explain this much. You know that you're going to get better. You know you're going to get a better NFL prospect, a better running back prospect in this range that isn't a 5th-round running back like Tyron Tracy was. And does that, make up for Tyron Tracy? Or is that an excuse for Tyron Tracy, producing after his rookie season and saying, oh, well, he has 5th-round draft? I mean, yeah, that does matter because the Giants have absolutely no loyalty to him. He wasn't even that amazing when he really was on the field last year. He was just better than what they had to begin with, and it wasn't that great. It was a super low bar. There are just way too many talents in the early second. Again, with the depth of the class, with the guys that we already mentioned, you're going to get guys that are way more exciting than Tyron Tracy. Kind
of the same thing at the 204 here. I've seen a little bit of resurgence in Travis Etienne's value since, I guess since they hired a new head coach. I don't know. I don't know why we would be paying mid-seconds for Travis Etienne at this point in time. But we are, and we know this because we've seen Travis Etienne go right between the 203 and the 204 in all of our startup drafts. And so with Etienne, I think if you can get the 204 out of him, again, we are talking about a better running back with, a clean slate and probably a better situation. Travis Etienne has had every opportunity to produce in Jacksonville. And of course, he did take advantage of it, right? Let's not forget that Travis Etienne was a top 10 running back a year ago. Right, but last year, again, the running back 35, he played in 15 games. He averaged 3.7 yards per carry. His touchdowns went from 11 to 2, and what happened? And not to mention the receiving upside that we all, adored with Travis Etienne. It went down to where it was about in 2022, and he only had 52 targets and 39 receptions. He only had 250 yards receiving. That's not going to cut it. And again, I think you're going to get a better running back prospect at the 204 still because you're going to be picking off these 3rd-round, 4th-round running backs that get in these landing spots where they could start or be in a committee from day one. So, with Etienne, I think it's a no-brainer. Calvin Ridley wasn't bad last year, but I think we can all agree for the contract that he signed, we were expecting more. He was the wide receiver 28 last year. He was really the only guy there. I don't think the situation is going to be getting a lot better there in Tennessee. I mean, maybe they draft a quarterback. Maybe they do. I don't know what they're going to do. But even if they do, you're talking about him playing with a rookie quarterback. Who do you think they're going to draft, actually?
I think they're going to go defense.
You think they're going to go Carter?
They're going to go Carter.
I think they're probably going to go Carter,
but
because I think I think they're going to get the Giants to trade up or something like that.
I mean, they could trade up out of the early second into the mid-late first and see if they can't get a guy like Dart there, if Dart is in that range. But again,
and honestly, I would like that better for them. But when you're still talking about kind of the same situation for Calvin Ridley, where people are picking off second-round picks for him. I saw him get traded for Chris Olave recently, and so I think you can get this for Calvin Ridley. I think even the receivers there are going to be better than Calvin Ridley is in terms of they're going to have wide receiver 3 upside, which is what Calvin Ridley was last year. Again, 30 years old, kind of getting towards the twilight of his career at this point, and I think the player you're going to get here is pretty nice. Zach Charbonnet, I think you have a chance of getting running back here. It's not in a heavy committee behind Kenneth Walker. And yes, we like Charbonnet. We think Charbonnet, we like him as an option better than Kenneth Walker just because that's our opinion. Doesn't guarantee that he's actually going to get the work over Kenneth Walker right away there in Seattle, and it does cap his ceiling pretty tremendously, and we've seen that over the last couple of years. As talented as Zach Charbonnet is, I mean, he's not really been somebody you can rely on from a fantasy football perspective, and so you can move him for the 204. I think you're going to get a better running back there, and the best way to know who to draft at these spots in the second round and what to do with your picks. It's going to be team dependent. We literally help people with this all the time with our team blueprints. You can get one at flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain. Annual Motherflocker tier is going to get you a free one. It's also going to get you Infinite Blueprint, which is a new blueprint every single month for your Dynasty team. So you get a lot of team reviews if you're doing the math. But really, our goal is to give you a plan for your Dynasty team this offseason. So you have a roadmap on what trades you should be making, what you should be doing with your rookie picks to set you up for success this season and next season after that, so that you're winning your Dynasty leagues and winning money. You also have a rookie draft guide that comes with it. So flockfantasy.com/domain, links down in the pinned comment. Let's go to the 205.
Yeah, so 205, we're going to start with Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco, I view very similarly to Tyron Tracy. Obviously, he's in a better situation, so his value is going to be elevated because of that. You're still going to have some Pacheco believers because of what he was able to do really at the end of 2022, the whole season of 2023. He was a running back 1 on a points per game basis. He just missed a little time in 23, obviously missed half the season in 2024, and when he came back healthy, he wasn't really the same. You are talking about a 6th-round running back, I think, a 6th-round running back in the Chiefs offense that was able to produce because of the volume that was available there, and they haven't invested in a running back for a long time. I think they've been waiting for a class like this where they can get someone at an affordable price, day 2, early day 3. It doesn't, again, very, very similar to Tracy, very, very similar to Najee Harris. Pacheco's going to be a Kansas City Chief in 2025. There is not a single range where I wouldn't be concerned about that running back, the running back that the Chiefs draft at some point this year, taking away from Isaiah Pacheco's workload. It already happened, guys. It already happened. They couldn't wait to get Steele an opportunity. They couldn't wait to get Kareem Hunt in there and have a committee backfield with him and Isaiah Pacheco. Anyone who they bring in, whether it's day 2, whether it's day 3, is going to be eating into that workload in that situation. That's just the way that the Chiefs operate, and they're probably not going to be paying a running back anytime soon. Definitely not Pacheco because of his limitations, which I think have become really, really clear over the last 18 months. Next guy that we're going to have here is Brian Robinson. I think Brian Robinson is a very respectable back, honestly. I've come to respect him a lot more than I did when he first came into the league because everyone thought it was a reach when he went 3rd round. And to be honest, he's kind of carved in a nice workload there in Washington over the last couple of years. But again, what has it been? Very cap ceiling. He's been a low-end running back 2, high-end running back 3. He's been okay. He's been middle of the pack pretty much every single year. 4.1 yards per carry, 4.2 over the last couple of seasons. He had 8 touchdowns this year, got a lot of goal line opportunities there, but you even saw the way that backfield was split once they got into the red zone. It was like 33, 33. Eckler, B-Rob, and who was the other guy?
You could say Jaden Daniels.
Daniels. And then they had that 3rd running back. I'm blanking on his name right now, but it was so annoying when they would take away touchdowns from B-Rob. B-Rob also doesn't have any receiving upside really at all. He had 25 targets, 20 receptions this year for 159 yards. He's not efficient in the air. This is a situation where if you wanted to have a really, really effective 6-back attack with Jaden Daniels and a real solid day 2 running back, that's something that I could totally see being in the cards for Washington this year. Again, this is the class to do it. If they take anyone day 3, I would be just as concerned. truly just as concerned because of how truly mid Brian Robinson is. They could definitely get an upgrade there. Tucker Kraft, he showed some flashes this year. I think what we've seen so far with the air raid offense that the Green Bay Packers have is it really is a split across the board, an even split across the board with your wide receivers and your tight ends there. Not to mention Luke Musgrave missed a lot of time as well. I think Tucker Kraft at the end of the day really is a superior tight end personally when it comes to the production. He was a tight end 10 this year. That's not giving you a competitive advantage, and this is just not an offense in my eyes that is really going to feed an ultra productive tight end and give Tucker Kraft the potential to be an elite upside tight end that's going to make a difference in your starting lineup. You've got Josh Jacobs there. You've got the potential of them bringing in another wide receiver, and they just spread the ball out so consistently so often that it makes it difficult for you to have a super high upside receiver or tight end in that offense. I would just rather ride with with Josh Jacobs and Jordan Love being able to spread the ball around and be productive himself. But again, cap ceiling there, I think, with Tucker Kraft.
The 206 and the 207 are going very close together here. The first guy is DeAndre Swift, and yes, this is achievable. He's going about a half round in some of our drafts behind the 206, right between the 206 and the 207. And so I do think you can get these picks for him. You know, the headline and sleeper right now is DeAndre Swift is likely safe, which I don't believe that for a second. I think as soon as the Bears draft Caleb Johnson, DeAndre Swift is probably dead. Now, the one thing that I do want to give DeAndre Swift credit for is that if anything, or if nothing, he's been consistent. When you're looking at his career, running back 18, running back 15, running back 21, running back 20, running back 19, he is a consistent low-end running back too. And last year, he had the most rushing yards of his career. He was the least efficient he's ever been in his career. But again, that was because, actually, it wasn't the second most rushing yards of his career, most attempts of his career. And that's why he was less efficient, is because he was being relied on as a bell cow. And he's really not that efficient as a bell cow. As also, you have never seen him get back up into the 70, 80 targets per year range, which, you know, somebody with a receiving skill set you'd like to see. It's a combination of Swift has a cap ceiling, which I think you're going to get somebody here with a higher ceiling, even if you're taking a shot on a running back or even a different position. But it's a cap ceiling for Swift. Not to mention, he's, I think, in grave danger of being replaced in that offense. But if I had to guess, I don't think Ben Johnson, who is familiar with DeAndre Swift, wants to roll with DeAndre Swift as his running back one again. If I just guessing based on prior events, I think they're going to draft a running back, and I think the running back immediately. Honestly, we thought Roschon Johnson was going to be, relevant there. We were wrong about that, but I do think this year the running back class is strong enough to where they could even take a running back in round 3, and they would be looking at replacing DeAndre Swift almost completely. Xavier Legette is also going here between these picks. Look, my one thing with Xavier Legette, obviously Bryce Young turned it on at the end of last year, and Xavier Legette had some good games. But when you're looking at the games where he scored double digits, there's a correlation between every single one of these games. He scored double digits in how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 games, and he scored a touchdown in how many games? 1, 2, 3, 4 games. Okay, well, ironically enough, they were the same games. Outside of that, when Xavier Legette was not scoring a touchdown, he was at the end of the season getting some games with 8 targets, 9 targets. The problem was, with the type of receiver Xavier Legette is, he's not catching a high percentage of those. And so even if he does end up a high target guy, you're talking about 2 catches for 39 yards on 8 targets, 4 catches for 53 yards and no touchdowns. And again, you're talking about, it's nice for 5 to 9 points. But when Jalen Coker was on the field, both, before Jalen Coker got hurt and then after he came back, as soon as Jalen Coker came back, you're like, okay, this guy's the one here. He's at least being treated like the one. At least Bryce Young, likes him more than Xavier Legette, it appears. And I think most people would agree with that watch the games. And Coker is somebody that we're going to talk about here in a minute, ironically enough, because we're not exactly sold on any of these guys. But Coker did more with less target volume, truthfully, and he's more efficient. It's because of the type of targets he's getting. And so Legette, if you can get the 206 or the 207 for him, we're doing it. And then Darnell Mooney. Nathan's a Mooney fan. This one feels gross to him. I think with Mooney, I think he's a lot less likely to be as productive as he was with Kirk Cousins, with Michael Penix. I do think he's still the 2 there. I don't think it's out of their own possibilities that they bring in another receiver this year. They're not going to do it through free agency, at least it looks like so far. But I would not be surprised if they drafted somebody. Not to mention, you've got Kyle Pitts, who's out there just, I don't even know what he's doing. He's taking
up space.
He's being tall, which is great, but Mooney's somebody I like, and on a contending team, I could see why you're holding Mooney. I still have a roster that I won the championship on that I have Mooney on. I haven't sold him. I'm not actively really trying to get rid of him, but I do think at this price I would get rid of Mooney. I think you're going to get somebody. I think again the value of the player you're going to draft at the 206, 207. I think it'll be a round and a half higher than Darnell Mooney when it's all said and done. And that's not saying much, but it's saying something. And then late seconds here, we'll wrap this up. I'll do the first 3. Tank Dell. Tank Dell had a devastating injury. It is devastating. He's going to miss all of next year, and the road to rehab is going to be hard. It's a guy who's had injuries before, and also, a guy that one of our main concerns with him coming to the NFL was his size and his durability because of that size. And yeah, the first one was a freak accident. But again, at some point, we have to look at Tank Dell and consider that.
Well, the offseason one was, but didn't he get injured during his rookie season too?
No.
Didn't he break his foot?
Well, no. He got hurt on the touchdown, the push thing, when that guy ran into him at the goal line, and he was in for the run play.
Yeah,
and
right.
So that's the freak
right.
one. I mean, he really shouldn't have been in for that play.
Yeah.
But with Tank Dell, I think you have to, at least consider the fact that the Texans are probably going to want help sooner than this. They already brought in Christian Kirk, and I think Christian Kirk will play the Tank Dell
That's
role,
definitely them expecting him to not be back anytime soon.
And again, I think that Houston could bring in a wide receiver as well. I think them bringing in somebody who would fit alongside Nico Collins would be a good idea for them. We talked about Xavier Legette. We'll talk about Jalen Coker as well. Would we be awfully surprised if Ted McMillan went to the Panthers?
No.
I don't think it's any question that although these guys on the Panthers managed to carve out some production last year, none of these guys have the ceiling of being a weekly flexible option at wide receiver, in my opinion. That includes Jalen Coker. You see him going for late seconds pretty frequently. I would make that move personally, as well as Kyle Pitts. Again, Kyle Pitts he's an enigma because he was really good. Really good. He was the tight end 6. It doesn't say much. He scored 176 points in his rookie season, and since then he's not cracked the top 12 again in terms of having a tight end season. He played full season the last 2 seasons, and again, not cracking the top 12 as a tight end, especially when Darnell Mooney is like borderline high in wide receiver 2 this last year, and Drake London's a wide receiver 1. So it's not like the offense isn't good enough for Kyle Pitts to produce.
He doesn't get usage in the red zone.
But he also even outside of the red zone though, every once in a while there will be all this noise about Kyle Pitts. Get him the ball, and then he'll come out and he'll have in week 7 9 targets, and then next week it's back to 5, and then it's back to 1, and it's like, for tight end, I would much rather just have, anybody super cheap than Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts still having
a cheap running back.
Having a late second round price, I would absolutely cash in there. All 3 of those guys for late seconds.
Yeah, I think we're kind of holding out hope just for a lot of these guys that you can get for late seconds. And again, I'd just rather have I hate saying reroll, but truly, like there's more value upside and opportunity for these guys going in the late second of this year's rookie draft to maintain their value heading into their second season than guys going into their third, fourth season where you're just hoping that maybe they'll increase in value. But if they don't do anything, again, which is more likely, they're gonna become valueless. Rashid Shaheed, actually, before he went down with the injury this past year, he was looking pretty decent. This guy had 16, 20, 15, 18 points in the first 5 games of the season. He was actually out week 3, only played like 5% of the snaps. And then he went down with the ACL tear, which is really unfortunate. So you have him coming off the ACL tear. You have him, again, having shaky target volume overall. He still is going to be touchdown or bust. The 3 biggest games that he had were big play touchdowns. That's just exactly what he is. He is going to have a cap ceiling, though schematically he's a valuable asset. Give me the second round asset. Instead, Quentin Johnston, he stepped up this past season, and that dude still has stone hands. It's going to take him another 2 to 3 years to figure out how to catch a football, I swear. Like, it's not his blood. And that was the biggest concern with Quentin Johnston as a prospect heading into the NFL, was that he has a tendency to body catch. He cannot catch a football consistently. It's really, really bad. Ladd McConkey already has taken over that role, and there is a chance that they can go out there and go get another wide receiver, whether it's in free agency, whether it's through the draft. Quentin Johnston is just not looking like he's going to be that reliable guy long term. And then Cedric Tillman, very similar reason to Jerry Jeudy. He really came on because of Jameis Winston, and when Jameis Winston wasn't on the field, Tillman just wasn't doing that much. And then he got banged up and he really couldn't come back from that. He's a guy that I think is just not going to be reliable long-term and kind of has a cap ceiling. And again, his touchdowns, his target volume, just not something that I'm going to be depending on when you've seen Jameis just continuously have this effect regardless of what offense, what team he's on. He's going to come in and sling the ball for 5 weeks and everyone in that offense is going to be productive, and then he leaves and it's like, it's terrible. I mean, you're obviously going to have a better quarterback prospect, better quarterback situation, hopefully, in Cleveland than what they had with DTR and whoever the frick else was playing, not named Jameis Winston last year. But still, even then, someone's going to have to take the hit. And I think Jeudy is still better. He'll get target opportunities before Tillman does. And Njoku is like the security blanket for any quarterback in that situation. So
I think all these guys, if you can get seconds for them, we're doing it. Again, this is essentially we'll take this asset over this asset video, and we've seen these assets go on top. I mean, they've gone before each other each way, and so we know there are going to be some of you that are just like, yeah, I disagree with that, and it's literally all subjective. So yeah, you're not going to be right about all these either. But it is kind of our gut feeling says that the market value of these picks or who the players are going to go with these picks is going to be higher at some point. So do us a huge favor, drop a like, make sure you subscribe. Flockfantasy.com/domain, code domain the annual Motherflocker. Like I said, it's going to get you that free blueprint where Nathan and I can look at your team personally, and then we can give you what we think would be the best ideas for your team this offseason to make sure that you're dominating your Dynasty leagues. Ultimately, that's the goal, is for you to win your championship in your Dynasty leagues. It's Motherflocker March. Our goal is 250 new members. We are almost halfway to our goal, so we're doing pretty well. But if we do hit our goal, obviously we're doing a ton of giveaways. We're doing a free blueprint every day over in the Discord, so join the free Discord in the description there. But if we hit our goal, we're going to do a destination draft weekend. Go on the road, do a whole weekend of live streaming and Dynasty content around the draft. It will be awesome, and Nathan's going to get cornrows. So check it out, flockfantasy.com/domain. We appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you later.